Ladies and gentlemen, let me slow this thing all the way down right here, because this first truth is where everything begins, and most people miss it. When you let go peacefully, you are not quitting, you are shifting your energy. And energy is everything. The moment you stop holding on out of fear, something inside you stands up straight again. You stop vibrating with anxiety, with questions, with that tight feeling in your chest that says, please don't leave me. Instead, you start moving from a place of calm, and calm is powerful. See, fear makes people act out of character. Fear makes you over-explain, over-text, over-love. Fear makes you give more than you have, hoping it will finally be enough. But when you let go peacefully, you are saying, I trust myself more than I fear losing you. That one shift changes how you walk, how you talk, how you breathe. You're no longer trying to survive love, you're allowing it. A man can feel that change even if you never say a word. Before, your energy was loud. It was asking questions. It was reaching. It was waiting for reassurance. But peaceful letting go is quiet. And quiet confidence messes with people's minds because they can't read it. He starts wondering, why isn't she angry? Why isn't she chasing? Why does she seem okay? That's when the power begins to move. Peace doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you cared enough about yourself to stop bleeding in front of someone who wasn't treating your heart gently. And that takes strength. Real strength. The kind that doesn't need an audience. When your energy shifts from fear to confidence, you stop needing answers. You stop needing closure conversations that go nowhere. You stop replaying every moment in your head. Instead, you accept what is, and acceptance frees up space inside you. Space for clarity. Space for dignity. Space for growth. And here's the part nobody tells you: confidence born from peace is attractive because it's not trying to attract. You're no longer performing love. You're embodying it. You don't need to prove your worth when you finally recognize it yourself. A man who walked away expecting you to fall apart suddenly realizes he doesn't have control over your emotional world anymore. And that realization hits hard. Because control feels like security to people who are unsure of themselves. When you remove fear from the equation, you remove control too. Letting go peacefully says, I loved you, but I love myself enough to choose peace. That sentence, even when unspoken, echoes. It lingers. It forces reflection. Because now the relationship is no longer about what you did wrong. It's about what he lost access to. Your calm becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, he sees his own confusion, his own inconsistency, his own unresolved issues. And when someone is left alone with themselves, truth gets loud. You don't realize how much emotional weight you were carrying until you put it down. And when you do, your shoulders relax, your mind clears, and your spirit breathes again. That inner peace becomes visible. People see it in your eyes, in your smile, in how you stop explaining yourself. And that's the irony. When you were trying the hardest to keep him, you were pushing him away. But when you finally let go without anger, without begging, without bitterness, you create a space where respect can return. Confidence doesn't argue. Confidence doesn't chase. Confidence knows that what's meant to stay won't need to be forced. And once fear leaves your energy, you stop attracting situations that feed on insecurity. This is why peaceful letting go is not weak. It's elevated. It says, I am whole with or without you. And wholeness is magnetic. Not just to him, but to life itself. When you stop fighting reality, reality starts responding differently to you. And whether he comes back or not, the most important thing has already happened. You came back to yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you a little deeper now, because this second truth is where things start to turn in a way most people never expect. When you let go peacefully, it does something powerful. It awakens respect and curiosity. And respect is the foundation men move from, not emotion alone. See, when a woman is arguing, pleading, or trying to convince a man to stay, he may still care, but his respect starts to fade. Not because she isn't valuable, but because desperation clouds dignity. And most people don't even realize they're doing it. They think they're fighting for love, when really they're fighting against themselves. Peaceful detachment changes that instantly. The moment you stop chasing explanations, stop demanding clarity, stop asking him to choose you, you step into a different position. You are no longer auditioning for a role in his life. You are deciding whether he still qualifies for a role in yours. That shift creates curiosity, because now he can't read you. He can't predict your next move. He thought you'd react one way and you didn't. He thought silence meant weakness, but instead it revealed strength, and strength makes people pause. Men are wired to pursue what feels just out of reach, not because of games, but because effort follows value. When something comes too easy, it's taken for granted. When it stands firm and moves with self-respect, it commands attention. Letting go peacefully doesn't mean you cut him off with anger or punish him with coldness. It means you detach without hostility. You don't announce it. You don't dramatize it. You simply stop over-investing. And that absence of emotional chaos creates a vacuum his mind wants to fill. Now he starts thinking about you differently. Not as the woman who was always available to fix things, but as the woman who knew when to step back. That's when respect quietly returns. And with respect comes reflection. Because when you're no longer reacting, he has to sit with his own actions. There's no argument to distract him, no tears to dismiss, no long messages to skim over, just silence and space. And space forces thought. Curiosity grows in that space. He wonders how you're doing. He wonders if you've moved on. He wonders if he misjudged your strength. And wondering is dangerous for someone who thought they had you figured out. See, respect isn't built by tolerating confusion. It's built by setting emotional boundaries. And when you let go peacefully, you finally draw a line without drawing blood. You say, I'm not fighting you anymore. And that statement hits harder than any argument ever could. A man doesn't return to chaos. He returns to clarity. And peaceful detachment offers clarity without pressure. It shows him who you really are when you're not trying to hold everything together alone. What pulls him back isn't fear of losing you. It's the realization that you chose yourself without destroying him in the process. That maturity lingers. It separates you from every emotional experience he's had before. You become the woman he can't categorize, not bitter, not desperate, not cold, just grounded. And grounded people have gravity. Even if he doesn't come back right away, the seed has been planted. Respect takes time to grow, but once it does, it changes how a man sees you permanently. You're no longer someone he can emotionally circle without commitment. Peaceful letting go teaches him something without a single lecture, that your presence was a privilege, not a guarantee. And when that truth sinks in, curiosity doesn't fade, it deepens. Because now, the question in his mind isn't, why did she leave? It's, why was I so sure she'd never walk away? Ladies and gentlemen, now let me take you into this third truth, because this one works quietly, but it works deeply. When you let go peacefully, silence and self-control create emotional gravity. And gravity doesn't chase, it pulls. See, most people are uncomfortable with silence. They think if they're not talking, explaining, or reacting, they're losing. But silence, when it's rooted in self-control, is not absence. It's presence without noise. And that kind of presence is powerful. When you stop responding emotionally to every trigger, you change the rhythm of the relationship. Before, there was a pattern. You spoke, he reacted. He pulled away, you leaned in. That dance felt familiar, even if it was unhealthy. But when you step back calmly, the music stops. And when the music stops, people notice. Silence forces awareness. It removes the distractions. There's no argument to hide behind. No emotional exchange to blur responsibility. Just space. And in that space, thoughts get louder. A man may say he wants peace, but he doesn't realize what peace actually feels like until it's gone. When you were there, offering understanding, patience, and emotional safety, he may have taken it for granted. But once that steady presence is no longer available, the difference becomes undeniable. Self-control is what gives silence its weight. Anyone can go quiet out of anger. Anyone can disappear out of fear. But choosing silence from a place of dignity is different. It says, I won't react in ways that cost me my self-respect. And that kind of discipline is rare. Men respond to that rarity. Not immediately, not always consciously, but it settles in their mind. They begin to feel the absence not as punishment, but as loss. Because now there's no emotional supply, no reassurance, no validation. And without those things, he has to sit with himself. He has to feel what it's like not to be prioritized, not to be accommodated, not to be emotionally rescued. And here's the part that pulls. Silence gives him room to miss you in his own way. Not because you reminded him, not because you showed him what he lost, but because he discovered it himself. When a man arrives at a realization on his own, it carries more weight than anything you could ever say. It becomes his truth, not your argument, and silence is what allows that process to happen. Your self-control also changes how you see yourself. You stop feeling reactive. You stop feeling powerless. You realize that peace is not passive, it's intentional. It takes strength to remain calm when emotions want to take over. That strength shows up in subtle ways. You stop checking your phone constantly. You stop waiting for a message to determine your mood. You start redirecting your energy back into your life, your goals, your healing. And that shift is felt even from a distance. Emotional gravity comes from alignment. When your words, actions, and energy all say the same thing, that you value yourself, people are drawn to that consistency. It feels solid. It feels real. Silence also removes manipulation. There's no room for mixed signals when you're no longer engaging in emotional back and forth. You're not asking for clarity. You're embodying it. A man who was used to emotional access now feels the gap, and that gap creates pull. Not out of panic, but out of recognition. Recognition of what felt stable, of what felt safe, of what felt genuine. Silence doesn't scream. It doesn't accuse. It simply exists. And in that existence, it tells the truth without saying a word. Self-control turns that silence into a statement. It says, I choose peace over proving my point. I choose dignity over temporary relief. And that choice is magnetic. Whether he comes back or not, the gravity has already done its work. You are no longer operating from need. You are operating from wholeness. And wholeness doesn't chase, it attracts. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about this fourth truth, because this is where many people get it twisted. When you let go peacefully, you are not showing weakness, you are signaling self-worth. And self-worth speaks louder than any emotional outburst ever could. See, weakness looks loud. It argues. It defends. It explains itself over and over again, hoping to be understood. But self-worth is quiet. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need to win the argument. It already knows who it is. When you stop fighting to be chosen, you send a clear message without ever sending a message. You're saying, I don't have to beg to be valued. That kind of certainty shifts how a man sees you, because most people don't walk away from situations that hurt them with grace. They walk away with bitterness. They carry anger. They want revenge. Peaceful letting go stands apart. A man expects emotional reactions. He expects resistance. He expects you to collapse or confront. What he does not expect is composure. And composure makes people rethink their assumptions. When you hold on to your self-respect instead of clinging to the relationship, you redefine the dynamic. You are no longer the woman trying to hold something together at any cost. You are the woman who understands that love should not cost you your peace. Self-worth shows up in what you no longer tolerate. You stop accepting mixed signals as potential. You stop excusing inconsistency as confusion. You stop minimizing your needs to make someone else comfortable. And when those behaviors end, something powerful happens. You become clear. Clarity is intimidating to someone who is benefiting from uncertainty, because now there's no room to hover, no room to test boundaries, no room to keep one foot in and one foot out. Peaceful letting go tells him, you don't get access to me unless you show up correctly. And access, once removed, becomes valuable. A man may not fully understand your self-worth at first, but he feels the difference. He feels the absence of emotional availability. He feels the end of unconditional tolerance. And that absence forces evaluation. When you no longer react, argue, or explain, you stop participating in emotional loops. Those loops once gave him control, whether he realized it or not. Your calm exit removes that control. Self-worth also changes how you carry yourself. Your posture shifts. Your tone softens. Your decisions become intentional instead of emotional. You're no longer trying to be understood by someone who isn't listening. And here's the truth. Men don't return to women who made them feel small. They return to women who made them feel respected. And respect begins with how you treat yourself. When you let go peacefully, you don't burn bridges. You don't damage memories. You leave the door closed, not slammed, and that matters. Because when reflection sets in, he doesn't associate you with pain or chaos. He associates you with maturity. That maturity stands out in a world full of emotional reactions. It becomes a benchmark. He starts comparing every interaction after you to the way you handled the ending, and very few people measure up to dignity. Self-worth also protects you. It prevents you from reaching out in moments of loneliness. It keeps you from undoing your own healing, and as you protect your peace, you become more grounded. Grounded people are steady. They don't chase validation. They don't need to announce boundaries, they live them. And that consistency builds trust, even in absence. A man who once questioned your value begins to question his own decisions. Not because you demanded it, but because your behavior made it unavoidable. You didn't fight for your worth. You embodied it. Peaceful letting go teaches a powerful lesson that love without self-respect is not love at all. And once you understand that, you never show up the same way again. Whether he returns or not, the most important transformation has already happened. You are no longer negotiating your value. You are standing in it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you into this fifth truth, because this one touches something deep in a man's heart that he often doesn't know how to explain. Men don't return to where they felt controlled, pressured, or constantly tested. They return to where they felt safe, valued, and inspired. And peaceful letting go is what reminds him of that difference. See, safety doesn't mean comfort without growth. It means emotional space. It means being able to show up without fear of being attacked, corrected, or judged every time there's a disagreement. When you were present, offering understanding instead of ultimatums, patience instead of pressure, you may not have realized how rare that was. Most people don't notice peace until chaos replaces it. When you let go without bitterness, you preserve the emotional memory of who you were in his life. You don't rewrite the story with anger. You don't erase the good moments by ending things in a storm. You allow the truth of your presence to remain intact, and that truth becomes clear with distance. A man remembers how he felt with you, not just what you did. He remembers the way conversations flowed, the way he could breathe around you, the way you didn't make love feel like a battlefield. And when that feeling disappears, it creates contrast. Contrast is powerful. It highlights what is missing. Peaceful letting go also removes pressure. Pressure makes people defensive. It makes them dig in their heels. It makes them justify their choices instead of reflecting on them. When you step away calmly, there's nothing to defend against. No enemy, no argument, just absence. That absence invites reflection. He begins to replay moments in his mind, not because you asked him to, but because his emotional system is searching for familiarity. And familiarity often leads him back to you because you represented something steady. Inspiration is another piece people overlook. When you choose peace, you model emotional maturity. You show him what it looks like to handle disappointment with grace. And whether he admits it or not, that kind of behavior challenges him. It raises the bar. A man doesn't forget the woman who handled pain with dignity. That memory sits with him. It makes him evaluate himself. It makes him ask if he showed up at the same level. When you let go peacefully, you don't become cold, you become centered. And centered people feel safe to return to. There's no fear of emotional punishment, no fear of being shamed, just the possibility of a healthier dynamic. This is why peaceful letting go pulls him back without you pulling at all. Because now returning feels like relief, not surrender. It feels like coming home, not losing control. Your peace also signals that love with you is not conditional on chaos. You're not creating drama to feel connected. You're not demanding attention through emotional intensity. And that's refreshing. Men get tired of noise. They may chase it for a while, but eventually they crave quiet. They crave ease. They crave a place where they don't have to perform or defend themselves. When they remember that you provided that, the pull becomes natural. Letting go peacefully also shows confidence in love itself. It says, if it's meant to be, it will return in a healthier form. That faith is attractive because it's grounded, not desperate. And even if he doesn't come back immediately, the impression you left continues to work. You become the standard by which future relationships are measured. And standards don't fade, they influence. A man may try to replace the connection, but peace is hard to replicate. It requires two emotionally mature people. And when he realizes that he understands the value of what he lost, peaceful letting go doesn't beg for return. It creates conditions where return feels safe, respectful, and inspired. And that's why it works, not as a strategy, but as a reflection of who you are becoming. You didn't just walk away. You left behind a feeling. And feelings like peace don't disappear, they linger. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring this all the way home with this sixth truth, because this is the deepest layer of all. Letting go peacefully is not a tactic, not a trick, not a strategy to pull someone back. It is a transformation. And transformation changes everything, whether he comes back or not. See, most people let go while still holding on inside. They stop calling, but they keep waiting. They stop texting, but they keep hoping. That's not peaceful letting go. That's delayed attachment. Real letting go happens when your heart releases the outcome, not just the person. When you truly let go peacefully, you stop measuring your worth by his return. You stop seeing his actions as proof of your value. And that inner shift is powerful because now you are no longer emotionally dependent on someone else's decision. A man can feel when you've changed for real, not when you're pretending to be strong, not when you're trying to look unbothered, but when your energy genuinely says, I am okay either way. That energy is different. It's grounded. It's steady. And it's rare. Transformation shows up in how you move through the world. You stop checking signs. You stop reading meanings into silence. You stop waiting for closure from someone who couldn't give it. Instead, you create closure within yourself. And here's the thing. People are drawn to people who are whole, not perfect. Whole. When you stop chasing love, love begins to notice you differently. If he comes back after this kind of letting go, it's not because you waited. It's because you evolved. And now the dynamic can only exist on a higher level or not at all. Peaceful transformation removes desperation from the equation. And desperation is what kills attraction faster than anything else. When you're no longer afraid to lose him, you stop giving away your power. That power doesn't make you cold. It makes you calm. And calm has authority. A man who returns after you've transformed doesn't return to the same version of you. He returns to someone who knows her worth, who has boundaries, who understands that love must add to her life, not consume it. And if he senses that he would have to rise to meet you instead of you shrinking to keep him, that alone changes how he approaches you. Transformation also protects you from repeating the same cycle. You're no longer willing to accept half, effort disguised as potential. You're no longer negotiating for consistency. You've learned that peace is not boring, it's stable. Letting go peacefully teaches you discernment. You begin to see red flags earlier. You listen to your intuition instead of explaining it away. You choose alignment over attachment. And here's the quiet power in that. When you are no longer attached to the outcome, you are magnetic because now you're not trying to get love. You're choosing it. Men don't forget women who change the way they see relationships. Even if they don't come back, the impact remains. You become a turning point, a reference, a lesson. And if he does come back, it's usually with humility. Because transformation exposes truth. He can no longer show up casually. He can no longer offer confusion. He has to be intentional or stay away. That's the real pull. Not manipulation, not silence alone, but growth. Peaceful letting go returns you to yourself, to your routines, to your laughter, to your future. And when someone sees that they are no longer the center of your emotional universe, it shifts how they see their place in your life. You are no longer asking to be chosen. You are choosing. And that choice is felt across distance, across time, across silence. So whether he returns or not, you are no longer waiting. You are living. You are grounded. You are free. And freedom, that's the most attractive energy there is.